Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Still sleepy? Kind of. It's the hour, I guess, right? Well, as Simon said, my name is Feria Segura. I work for National Geographic Learning, and it's a pleasure to be here with you this afternoon. Do you have stories to tell? A lot? Plenty? Do you like telling stories? Yes? Kind of? Let me tell you a story. Yes. This is me. I'm Freddie. I am the third son of Irma and Rene, and I'm from El Salvador. I was born in the second marriage of my parents because they got married, they had 2 kids, they got divorced, they remarried, and they had me. So I'm a single child of the second marriage. I was a very loved child who feared people wearing costumes. I would see clowns or anybody wearing a costume and I would scream and run away until that very day when my mom took me to Six Flags in the US and I overcame my fear. I learned English at the States, and for the last 22 years I've been an English teacher. And by being an English teacher, I've known incredible people like this group over here, which is a group of police officers from Latin America. They were taking a course in El Salvador. Did I say that I'm from San Salvador? Yeah. I've been living here for the last 2 years and a half. So now I'm in Guadalajara. And these incredible people from Brazil, Chile, and Peru offered me a home. I've never been to them yet, but I'm planning to. I've met incredible people by being a teacher. At first, I thought that I was going to teach them incredible things, and I ended up learning from them, especially from those. God, they demand energy, creativity, strength, power, but they are the most loving. Have you ever taught children? Did you like it? No. I did it 3 years and I said no more. But eventually I've done it several times after that. And I've met teachers all over Latin America that have given me the opportunity not to teach, but to learn. The most incredible thing that you have as a teacher is the power to learn from your students, to learn from their experiences and grow with them. English has also given me the opportunity to travel. I've been to different places around the world because of the language. Because I have worked for other publishers, and these publishers have given me the opportunity to travel and meet teachers around the world. And now I'm here. English brought me to Guadalajara. It's interesting to discover that no matter where you are, things are not so different from home. We might think that different countries, different cultures, yes, but we're more alike than the way we're different. And the greatest gift that life has given me, I don't have kids, but it's this one. He's my best friend, my partner. He's guapo, and he knows it. As you can see, he poses for the pictures. And he's here in Guadalajara with me. I brought him here because we're best friends. We can't live apart from each other. And it happens that we all have stories to tell. When you start a class, you normally think of the topics, you normally think of the vocabulary, you normally think of the structures, the materials, the resources. What are you going to do to make them feel comfortable in the class? How are you going to deliver the class? But you never stop to think of the stories that come with your students into your class. That's sometimes one of the things that we forget in the classroom. And it's interesting because they all have stories to tell. They all come with a baggage filled with stories of good experiences and very bad experiences. And they see you and they fear you sometimes because of the bad experiences that they had before. And you have your stories of the good and the bad experiences that you've had in the classroom, don't you? If you balance where does the balance go? To the good stories or to the bad stories in the classroom? Which are more? Half and half? There's a balance between the good and the bad? And the funny? Yes? We all have different stories. Scary ones, yes. I was actually telling Tanya yesterday that one of my scary stories, I got my car window broken by a student once because he didn't pass. And then when I got to the parking lot, my car window was broken. I'm from El Salvador, as you know. We have Maras over there. He was part of one of them. And then I was told not to go to a specific part of the neighborhood just in case. Just in case, right? Scary stories. And these stories build our attitude towards the class. Math and English are the two things that people tend not to like. Sometimes science, but it's mostly math and English, right or wrong. Why do I have to speak English if we speak Spanish? Nobody speaks English here. They do say it. I was surprised a month ago because a preschooler teacher told me that some of their kids complained that they didn't like English because they didn't speak English at home. And I was like, okay. I thought there was a complaint only for teenagers, but it's for everybody. Funny thing is that we don't stop to listen or to hear our students' stories. And when we do give students the opportunity to tell us their stories, we understand where they come from. And we stop seeing our students as a number in the list, but as a person. Because the universe is not made of atoms. It's made of tiny stories. Funny thing, you will always find something in your students' stories that connects with your stories. And then you understand their struggles, and you see them from a different perspective. Why do you think stories are important in the English classroom? Tell me. Children? You don't speak English? Good. Okay.
They can learn from experiences, and they came up with ideas, and they imagine it's easier.
Please.
I forgot what I said.
You
No.
said it helps with speaking?
Yes, it helps improving speaking,
Okay.
especially when they are trying to wield the thinking and the critical thinking, and made up some. Yeah, the ideas come out with images,
Okay.
with pictures.
So first, you said it helps with speaking, but it also helps with critical thinking, and it helps with developing imagination and creativity. Okay? Why else? Thank you very much.
Is their dreams.
Their dreams? Definitely,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, and
They go to
their
a different reality, and where they can be free, right? And they can develop their own creativity and their own
create.
universe.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Why else are stories important?
I don't know if anyone said it already, but I'm going to say it. I think it stimulates imagination in
Yes.
students.
Definitely, it stimulates imagination. Like if you've ever worked with, or if you have children, nephews, nieces, around the age of 4, 5, and they try to tell you a joke, and they end up telling you a story, right? And they laugh in the end because for them it's funny, but it's their imagination, it's their world, right? And they are creating different parallels, like if it's Marvel, right? And they are developing their curiosity, their imagination, and they are discovering the world through this. Sad is that we stop doing that. When we go to school, we stop doing that because we somehow expect the teacher to give us all of the information. So why not start having our students tell stories again so that their brain turns on? Kids are robots. Have you noticed? They listen, repeat, complete, forget. Because they do everything mechanically. But when you have them ignite their imagination, something turns on, and it's an incredible change in their lives. Stories, as you've said, capture imagination. Do you like to read? Be honest. Yes? Yes. You see, it's interesting because and I've been to many countries in Latin America, we don't like reading. Latin Americans were not a reading culture. I remember when I was a kid in the States, they took us every week to the library. And they convinced us of getting the library card. And I would bug my mom to take me to the library to go and read books. And then we went back to El Salvador, and there was no library. And I was like, really? Why not? And I was the only freak that was looking for books, because everybody was looking for a ball to play, which is not bad. But there should be this balance of both, right? And reading and stories capture students' imagination. I'm a Harry Potter fan, I have to admit. I mean, I even have 2 tattoos of Harry Potter, and I have read all the books, and I have seen all the movies. And I love and I hate the movies because they don't have everything that the books have, and I'm missing those essential parts, and I look at the movies and I'm like, yes, but and once you see a movie, for example, and you read the book again, my suggestion is read the book, then watch the movie, then read the book again. You can see everything that you're reading from a different perspective. And if you have your students tell stories, you capture their imagination. Stories trigger a memory because you start telling a story from something that you remember. Normally, you try to hide it if it's an embarrassing situation, and you say that you have a friend that did this and that, or you know somebody who suffered of this, but you don't say it's you because you're ashamed of it. But it triggers a memory, and you go back in time and remember either a good or a bad experience. It creates an emotional connection because you liked it, you enjoyed it, or you didn't. And then you go, not just your brain, but your emotions wake up again, right? Stories teach us about life, about ourselves, and about others because you learn from what you're telling. You learn from the other person. And here's what I was telling you before. You learn to understand where the person comes from. And you understand why the person is the way he or she is. Because normally when you get a new group, they tell you, oh, you're going to have problems with this group. Because fulanito always talks, the other one is always fighting, the other one is always sleeping. Have you stopped and wondered why? When you hear their stories, you understand why. He sleeps every day because he works, or because his parents fight and he can't sleep at night. And then you understand the reason of the behavior. They inspire communication because, as you were saying, they start talking. Whenever you have something to tell, and we love to gossip, don't say no because we do. Gossiping is the best way of communication. And it's telling stories. Because la fulanita dijo tal cosa, and you're sharing information, and you're communicating naturally. You see, we laugh because it's true. Stories offer a unique way for students to develop an understanding, respect, and appreciation for others. Okay? Let me show you a story of success.
My education came from observing what was happening around me and observing that richness that comes with struggle. I was always looking for a way to translate what I was seeing around me, and photography became my voice in this big, very confusing world. And that was the beginning. I think adventure is anything that puts us outside our comfort zone. In my world, that has always been going into the mountains. In 2010, 2011, I went to Pakistan to climb in the Himalaya in winter. We did the first ascent of Gasherbrum 2, an 8,000 meter peak in the Karakoram Himalaya. And that trip changed my life forever. On the descent, we were hit by an avalanche that nearly killed all three of us. When I realized that I had not died, I turned a camera on myself and took an image, and that image ended up being put on the cover of National Geographic. There was no way of knowing at the time that that image that was really just my way of dealing with stress was gonna push my life in such a dramatic direction towards telling that larger story of what it means to hurt and what it means to triumph and what it means to be human. I've never been comfortable in the place that I'm in. I can't stop and sit. It's a constant engine that just keeps driving me towards the things that are unknown to me. It doesn't matter if I can't feel my fingers. It doesn't matter how my face stings and literally feels like it's getting sandblasted. What matters is that somebody else can feel that by looking at a picture. I've been to all 7 continents. I've witnessed sunrise over the highest mountains in the world. Polar bears standing on the last piece of ice on the farthest north piece of land in the Eurasian continent. And faces, I've seen faces that are just years and years of history, all wrapped into one single expression. The most important tool for connecting with anybody that you're photographing is being able to make somebody laugh.
You're not that much older.
Yeah.
Just given that moment, all of a sudden you have a friend for life. And the whole world opens up. My job is to communicate a real, raw, visceral experience. And despite the seriousness of all of this, and despite the fact that we are facing massive problems as a human family, we're still experiencing each other and loving and having a ton of fun. I mean, life is fun. This started as a way for me to communicate what I was experiencing. And what it's become is a way for me to communicate what we are experiencing.
One picture that changed his life. See, he had been taking pictures before, but he had that one picture that he took after the avalanche hit him, and he realized he was not dead. And that image was a cover of the Nat Geo magazine and changed his life forever. And now he says, I'm trying to transmit life through my images. And that's something interesting because I don't know if you've realized, but our kids live taking pictures. It's what they do now, 24/7. Instagram and TikTok. Their life is projected through a camera. And they're telling stories. Why not take advantage of that in our classes? Why not let them tell their stories and show the world who they are and what they want to do? The thing about stories is that first you have to choose the right story. Okay, that's very important. Because depending on who you're talking to, that's the story you're going to deliver. Because especially if you're working with teens, you have to be very careful on the topics. Because they hate everything and they love almost nothing. Right? So let them choose the topic and let them tell the story. Because maybe we can think that for us it's the best story in the world. Like when we choose songs and we bring songs from 19-something in the past that are really cool for us. We really enjoy them. But for them, we're like, really? That's my mom's music. Right? So don't tell them the story. Let them choose the topic and let them tell the story. For stories to work, you need to activate prior knowledge. Okay? Ask the right questions. Show the right pictures. Because you don't necessarily need to ask a question, but you can show an image. And this picture is going to trigger ideas and memories. Images speak more than words. Have you heard that? We have an advantage, for example, in our materials, that we're so filled with pictures, real pictures from National Geographic that activate so many curiosities and topics and ideas in kids that you can give them whatever, show them anything, and everything tells a story for them. Help them predict the details of the story. What do you think is going to happen next? Where do you think they are? What are they doing? Are they happy? What do you think this person is going to do? How do you think this person is going to react? Help them retell the story. Give students a purpose. This is very important because they normally ask, why? Why am I going to do this? Don't tell them because you're going to learn the vocabulary through the story. Don't tell them because you're going to learn the structure through the story. Tell them that because by telling this story, they're going to be able to communicate with someone in the States. Because by doing this, chatting with someone online is going to be easier. Give them a real purpose for the activity. Okay? Something that in real life they can use. But if you tell them that it's going to help them practice the present perfect, why should I use the present perfect in real life? I mean, there's a reason, yes, but you don't wake up in the morning and you say, today is the present perfect day. Right? It's not real. So give them a real purpose of why they're telling the stories. Find common grounds, things that we all consider are interesting, that we can share and we can discuss about it, and make it interesting. Show that you are interested in what they are doing. You see, it's very interesting, by the way, but the way we project our attitude in the classroom is the way they react to us. If you're angry, they're going to be quiet. Or if you're not like their favorite teacher and they see that you're angry, they're going to behave in a way to make you angrier. It happens. But if you're interested, if you're excited about it, if they see that you feel motivated towards something, best chance, they are going to get motivated with you. Smile. My first boss told me once that if it's necessary, we have to wear a clown costume. If necessary, she said. You don't have to be the clown always, but if necessary, do it. And in the end, I found that sometimes it is. Sometimes we have to stand on our hands and do magic so that they feel motivated towards doing something, and the results in the end are much better. Kids don't see you as the teacher, but as the person that actually helped them learn something that made them get a better job, that made them find or make a decision for their careers. It's like, you know what? I don't speak English anymore, and I've had some that told me that. I never learned English. I really don't like it. But you helped me be organized and be responsible. And now I chose a different career in the university because of what you told me once. You never know what one phrase is going to make an impact on your students' lives, and it will help them change. But again, you get to this relationship with your students when you know their stories. Now, talking about cats. Cats have something peculiar. But before we go into the cats, I want to share with you the experience of using images. Okay? Images are so important when telling stories because every picture tells a different story to every person. Okay? You can see a picture. 3 of us can be in the same room watching the same image, and we all have a different perspective of it, and we all can tell a different story from it. So let's hear a little bit of experts about telling stories. This is a video of something that we all see every day, but we all take for granted.
One night I was bored in my apartment and decided to take my telescope out to the sidewalk. The moon was out and I thought, why not? Within a few minutes, people started walking over and asking what this thing was.
Hey, what is that, bro?
It's a telescope. Do you want to check out the moon? Do you want to take a look at the moon?
What is it?
It's the moon.
Where am I supposed to look?
You're supposed to look right here.
Oh, indeed.
Yeah. That's where it all started, and it just sort of went from there.
Oh my gosh! Whoa, that is. Oh, Tommy, check this out!
Oh, man.
Oh man! Is that awesome?
That is pretty awesome.
No way.
No way. No way. That's the moon?
No way.
Yeah, way.
Well, you can see the craters. Yeah. That is so cool.
Get wider.
What? Look at the edge. I want to see more of it. I know. Is it for real?
I've never seen this before.
Crazy.
This is amazing. Wow. That is intense right there, boy. Woo. Bro, that look like that's right down the street, man. Man, what you got here, man? That look like that's right down the street.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? It's right.
Is that an actual image of the moon? Is it like a live image?
It's that right there. To be able to see it up close and feel like you could almost reach out and touch it, and that's what makes it real to us.
That is incredible.
I kind of felt like I just landed on the moon.
It makes you realize that we are all on a small little planet, and we all have the same reaction to the universe we live in.
Wow.
I think there's something special about that, something unifying. It's a great reminder that we should look up more often.
Just keep the phrase. It's a great reminder that you should look up more often, right? What did he do? He shared. But in order to share the story, what did he do? What was this great activity that he conducted?
He provided the means to create an experience.
Yes.
He provided the telescope. Yeah, the
Yes,
telescope.
it was a telescope. He provided the means for an experience. See, normally we start and we think, what am I going to do? What am I going to bring to the class? The simplest thing can create the most incredible experience. We don't have a telescope, definitely we don't. But think of what can be something simple that you can bring to your class that can create an incredible experience. I'll give you one: clay or Play-Doh, plastilina. Bring it to your class. Teenagers, adults, kids are familiar with it, but if you have teenagers or adults, bring it to your class. You're going to see their face. It's amazing. They don't want to stop using it because they remember their childhood. It triggers so many memories. And then they create a little boy and they create a little hen, y la gallinita y los huevitos, and they start telling a story. And when you realize they are having fun, and they will remember that lesson because of what you did with the clay, more than repeating the words 10 times. Something simple. Bring them crayons and have them draw in color. And you're like, crayons? Really? Provide the means for an interesting experience. Something that is not necessarily in a book. Something that is not necessarily what we're used to. But something that is simple and incredible. If you're in a relationship, what makes it interesting? Those little details. A chocolate on an unexpected day. A flower out of the blue. I'm like, wow. That's the same thing that happens in class. Bring them unexpected details that will make it different, fun, and interesting. Stories have a lot of culture behind it. Because we all have stories based on our life experiences. So we have to teach our students also to respect and honor their individuality, their experiences, and their stories. Because there's always one that thinks that he or she is funny and is going to make fun of everything. So first thing, start with your story. Story of respect, a story of struggle, and show them, teach your students to respect each other through their stories. Because this is very important. And it's real life. We know that there's always going to be somebody that might not be as respectful. But again, let this person tell their story first. And then we'll see where they come from. Pictures, again, give kids the opportunity to tell stories. And by choosing the right moment, by choosing the right image, we give students the opportunity to express themselves naturally in life. You can bring pictures, but you can also ask them to bring their pictures and tell their stories. You can use images to just to awake curiosity. Because if you bring the picture, you're giving them the opportunity to create any story. If they bring the picture, they have their story already elaborated. Is it good? Perfect. As long as they feel comfortable with it. Have you seen TED Talks? Have you used TED Talks in class? Nope. What are TED Talks? Okay. Somebody sharing experiences, talking. They're actually telling stories. They're telling the story of something that they did that made an impact in their community, right? And somehow that's what we want our students to do. Stand up and speak. Because normally what we do is like, okay, we're going to have a project, and you're going to talk about your favorite artist. And they memorize every single expression that they have to say. Right? Whereas a TED Talk, for example, is just people speaking, sharing experiences. When you share experiences, you talk from the heart, not from the mind. And that's the same thing that happens when you tell stories. When you tell stories, you speak from your heart. You speak from your memory of experiences and not from the memory of the mechanical part of your brain. See? And here's a small, I'm not going to play the whole TED Talk, but I want you to listen to part of this TED Talk of a writer.
Hello, my name is Jared Krzaska, and I write and illustrate books for children for a living. So I use my imagination as my full-time job. But well before my imagination was my vocation, my imagination saved my life. When I was a kid, I loved to draw, and the most talented artist I knew was my mother. But my mother was addicted to heroin. And when your parent is a drug addict, it's kind of like Charlie Brown trying to kick the football. Because as much as you want to love on that person, as much as you want to receive love from that person, every time you open your heart, you end up on your back. So throughout my childhood, my mother was incarcerated. And I didn't have my father because I didn't even learn his first name until I was in the 6th grade. But I had my grandparents, my maternal grandparents, Joseph and Shirley, who adopted me just before my 3rd birthday and took me in as their own, after they had already raised 5 children. So 2 people who grew up in the Great Depression, there in the very, very early 80s, took on a new kid. I was the cousin Oliver of the sitcom of the Krzaska family. The new kid came out of nowhere. And I'd like to say that life was totally easy with them. They each smoked 2 packs a day, each non-filter. And by the time I was 6, I could order a Southern Comfort Manhattan, dry with a twist, rocks on the side, the ice on the side so you could fit more liquor in the drink. But they loved the hell out of me. They loved me so much. And they supported my creative efforts. Because my grandfather was a self-made man. He ran and worked in a factory. My grandmother was a homemaker. But here was this kid who loved Transformers and Snoopy and the Ninja Turtles. And the characters that I read about, I fell in love with, and they became my friends. So my best friends in life were the characters I read about in books. I went to Gates Lane Elementary School in Worcester, Massachusetts, and I had some wonderful teachers there. Most notably in 1st grade, Mrs. Alish. And I can just remember the love that she offered us as her students. When I was in the 3rd grade, a monumental event happened. An author visited our school, Jack Antost, a published author of books, came to talk to us about what he did for a living. And afterwards, we all went back to our classrooms and we drew our own renditions of his main character, Rotten Ralph. And suddenly the author appeared in our doorway. And I remember him sort of sauntering down the aisles, going from kid to kid, looking at the desk, not saying a word. But he stopped next to my desk, and he tapped on my desk, and he said, "Nice cat." And he went on. Two words that made a colossal difference in my life. When I was in the 3rd grade, I wrote a book for the first time, The Owl Who Thought He Was the Best Flyer. We had to write our own Greek myth, our own creation story. So I wrote a story about an owl who challenged Hermes to a flying race. And the owl cheated. And Hermes, being a Greek god, grew angry and bitter and turned the owl into a moon. So the owl had to live the rest of his life as a moon while he watched his family and friends play at night. Yeah. My book had a title page. I was clearly worried about my intellectual property when I was 8. And it was a story that was told with words and pictures, exactly what I do now for a living. And I sometimes let the words have the stage on their own, and sometimes I allow the pictures to work on their own to tell the story. My favorite page, the About the Author page.
I'm going to stop it there. There was this one phrase, which was, nice cat. 2 words. 2 words that made a complete difference in this kid's life. Why? Why? Why do you think these 2 words made a difference? Please.
I think he felt acknowledged.
Okay.
He felt recognized.
He felt acknowledged and he felt recognized. Nice cat. One simple expression from an activity that was not the standard classroom activity. What were they doing? They were drawing their rendition of the story's character. They were not writing sentences. They were not filling the book. They were not writing or copying a story from a model they were given. They were drawing. They were using creativity and imagination. And his imagination, his creativity was acknowledged. And that's our job. We have to acknowledge our students' nice cats. We have to be very careful with what we do and how we do it. Because one expression that comes out of our mouth has such an impact that can change students' lives. Like this one, nice cat, and now he draws for a living. Do you remember any teacher that acknowledged you? For good or for bad? Because we have those memories of the good teacher and the bad teacher, right? My favorite teacher, my math teacher in high school. I hate math, but I loved the teacher. She was like a grandma to everybody. And she made math interesting, at least for those few moments. I never understood it. Still now, I love calculators because I can't do math. But she was a great teacher. She was always there for us. She would always have phrases that would push you to do something that you didn't want to, and you were convinced of wanting to do it in the end. Stories are powerful because we grew up with them. Everybody has family stories. Everybody has always told stories at every different moment in life. Stories are powerful because we think in stories. Stop for a moment and analyze the way you speak. There's always a story in your mind. There's always our little hamster running around elaborating what you're going to tell next. Stories are powerful because they invoke our emotions. Stories inspire us. This is a National Geographic explorer. His name is Aziz Abu Sara. He's from the Palestine. And he tells stories, and his job is to go to different places where there's conflict, like where he lives, and find solutions for conflict. Very interesting because his desire to learn English came from the killing of his brother. His brother was killed by the Israeli army, and then he started with hatred in his heart, and the teacher told him that hatred was not going to take him anywhere. A teacher told him to learn to solve the conflict. And from that moment on, that's what he does. Teach people how to solve conflicts. So I'm going to show you a quick video of him sharing one of his experiences.
My name is Aziz Abu Sara. I'm a cultural educator and a National Geographic explorer. And what I do is go around the world finding ways to connect people and to solve conflicts. I started learning English when I was 5 years old, and I grew up with that love of wanting to communicate and speak the language. Without English, I couldn't do my work. English is an essential role in everything I do in my life. I've worked in 50 countries around the world, and my way of communicating with people in all these countries is through speaking English. English isn't my native language, but it has opened the world for me to engage with the world, to have dialogue with the world, and eventually to be part of the change in the world through English. The photography with refugee kids was my favorite. Bringing to them stories that shows them that the world is bigger is a big part of that. It's very hard working in refugee camps because you see where we as humanity fail. But working there is probably one of the most uplifting experiences in my life. I learn more there than I'm able to teach. But one thing I want them to do is to tell their stories to the world. If you have one photo you can show the world that would tell your story, think about that photograph. And they'll go around looking for these moments that really can capture what does it mean to be a refugee. And what's amazing for me, those moments are not necessarily the most depressing moments. It's not the tent, it's not how bad their lives. It's what matters most to them. The advice I would give is remembering that we're not teaching a topic, we're not teaching a language, we are teaching a way of life. We are teaching an avenue, a channel for these students to speak with the whole world. It's changing the way we see the world. It's making us ask new questions, seek new relationships, understand new cultures. This goes beyond just a mouth-to-a-mouth conversation. This is a heart-to-a-heart conversation.
We're not just teaching a language, he says. And it's not a mouth-to-mouth conversation, it's a heart-to-heart conversation. Almost to sum it up, let's open our eyes and ears to stories around us, allowing them to ignite the authentic stories that lie dormant within us. I would love you to tell your stories, and it would be incredible to hear them, but I also want you to allow your students to tell you theirs. Learn who they are and let them know you so that you enjoy classes from a different perspective. You learn not that you're teaching a language, but that you're teaching a way to communicate life experiences. So we want to know your opinion about the session, so if you could please fill in the information on this QR code. It's just brief information and then how much you enjoyed this session with the music included. It was a musical session as well. And then please, if there's anything that I can be of help, here's my email and my social media. And if you're interested in sharing more with us, this is our webinars website from National Geographic Learning, which you can sign in and learn from there and share with different teachers around the world.